LEAD graduation. LEAD is comprised of HiPo directors, senior directors that have been identified as potential succession plans to our leadership team. I want you to know I didn't want to be here. Don't get me wrong, I don't mean that it's not been a privilege. It's been a great privilege, and hopefully as I tell you my story, you can also hear that it's been very humbling. But it's never been a part of a career plan I had to be where I'm at in front of you today. Let me tell you a little bit about myself and how I got here. I was born in Xenia, Ohio. My parents are what you could call blue collar or middle class. My father, to say that he didn't finish high school is only half of his story. He actually didn't even start school until he was 11 years old. In his early 20s, when he met my mother, his father-in-law got him a job at a warehouse where he took on a role as a forklift operator, a teamster guy. And he worked for that same company for 30 years and retired as a forklift operator at a teamster's job. My mother, when she graduated from high school, went on to LPN school where she became a licensed practical nurse at the local community hospital, where she worked evening shift 2 days a week, every other weekend, until she retired from there 34 years later. Same company, same job as an LPN. Our parents, I was one of 3 children, our parents raised us with that hard worker mentality, to have a strong work ethic, to be loyal to your employer. And when you do that, the company will take care of you, as evidenced by them working for the same company their whole career. And it did just that. But never once did I ever remember my parents coming home from work, and my mother never talked about being the charge nurse or the hospital supervisor, nor did I ever hear my father talk about being the lead foreman at the warehouse or a manager of the warehouse. No, they talked about the people they worked with in relationships. So fast forward my own life. I went to Ohio State and got my bachelor's of nursing and began my career at Riverside Hospital working as a staff nurse in the ICU. At that point in time, I'd made it. In my eyes, I had far exceeded any expectation I had had for myself. And I bet if you were to ask my parents, they were very proud of me at that point and would also say that I was very successful. I enjoyed being a staff nurse and had other opportunities. I remember in the LEAD program, Dr. Markovich came and spoke to us, and as he talked about his own career, the one piece of advice that he gave us was, when someone taps you on the shoulder, be that person that steps forward, because they're tapping you on the shoulder because they feel like you have the skill set or the leadership characteristics needed to perform. And as I think about my own life, that's what's happened to me. Many people, some of you in this room, have tapped me on the shoulder, and I'm telling you, gave me phenomenal opportunities. If you were to ask that staff nurse back there, if I would have just stopped there, I would have missed an amazing career, and to be a nurse and experience what I've experienced within OhioHealth has been nothing short than amazing. So now I'm successful. I have done the things. I'm an adrenaline junkie. Those of you who know me would agree. I've had jobs that are adrenaline junkie jobs, and I've enjoyed it a lot. But I was the guy that I love driving metrics. I love building teams. I love moving forward, and never really looked back to think about how I got there until I got in the LEAD program. And what the LEAD program helped me to realize and self-reflect is that maybe how I got there is not what's going to get me to where I need to go. Many up here have talked about the 360 program. My 360 shared those same successes that I saw in myself about being a results driver and someone that builds teams and mentors and moves the cheese in the organization. But what I wasn't prepared to hear is that how I shut down the room. How my peers, especially my direct reports, don't feel like I value their input. One of the comments actually that was written on my 360 that someone had the courage to write on my feedback was that we don't really think Duane wants our input. He just asked for it, but he has his own plan of how we're going to get there. Wow. I remember working with my coach, and she asked me how that made me feel. Well, I'd already thought through that. It made me feel pretty bad. Because although I feel like I've developed teams that have made me successful, it made me wonder who I was leaving behind and what teams that I could have helped the organization build to even make us even more successful. My Enneagram further validated that. I'm a 7-8, and those same strengths that were highlighted, it used words like dismissive. That when I want something and I don't feel like I'm getting it from a person, that I become dismissive and just move on to the next person. And the outcome of that is what I got back in my 360. So it allowed me to self-reflect and to challenge myself to actually do something about it. I don't think anyone's asked me not to give my opinion, but maybe I don't have to be the first person out of the gate to give my opinion and overpower the group so they don't feel their opinion is valued. And so as I stand up here and tell you about my own challenge, I challenge you to ask yourself that same question. As a resident leadership has taught us to change as the organization changes, what do we need to do as leaders to look at how we got here that will help us get to where we need to be as a leader? Thank you.